Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Phil. Thanks for being here. As always, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I appreciate all your support. Today we are going to be talking about the entire lineup of bikes from Indian Motorcycle for 2023 year. Let's get started. There are actually very few changes in the lineup for 2023 with Indian. I believe they're changing one model or removing one and adding one, something like that. We'll get to those details. I think they made some updates to their ride command system, which is the software that runs their infotainment on their upscale baggers. Other than that, I know there's been some pricing changes. I've seen prices go up a little bit, at least for the models that I've been familiar with. So we're going to talk through all of the different models. I'm going to have pictures of all the different color schemes that are available. A lot of these pictures, well, all of these pictures are taken from their website. So I apologize if they're not great in terms of resolution or how sharp they are. The pictures that are available on their website are certainly not 4K. But anyway, we're going to start off with the standard or naked bike model that they have, which is the FTR. There are 5 different models on the FTR. Ranging from $13,500 to $17,250 as far as OEM from the factory. The FTR has a 1200cc engine, 6-speed, 120 horsepower with 87 foot-pounds of torque. It has a 3.4 gallon tank. Weight is about 510 to 520 pounds, fully gassed up and ready to go. The FTR has Brembo brakes. ABS and cruise are all standard on all the models from what I can see. The FTR has a fairly sporty stance with controls slightly to the rear and leaning slightly forward. This is actually somewhat similar to the sport touring bike that I just did a review on. If you haven't seen that yet, you can check it out here. So the 5 models with the FTR are this FTR, the FTR Rally, FTR Sport, which is the new model that Indian is introducing for this year. I believe the previous was the FTR S, and I don't know what the differences are between the two. I really haven't looked at that. But for 2023, they have the FTR Sport. They have the FTR Carbon and the FTR Championship. So basically, the differences between them. So FTR, of course, is your basic model. The FTR Rally, Sport, and Championship have higher ground clearances and higher seat height. So the FTR and the FTR Carbon have a 30.7-inch seat height, and the FTR Sport, Carbon, and the FTR Rally, Sport, and Championship, I think are around 32-inch seat heights, if I remember correctly, maybe 32.5. All right, the FTR Sport, Carbon, and Championship have Bluetooth. They have touchscreen. The center console, whatever you want to call it, has touchscreen, and they have riding modes on the Sport, Carbon, and Championship. The only real difference between the FTR and the FTR Rally is that the FTR Rally is kind of designed to be more of a off-road type bike. Has the higher clearance, higher seat height, and it has knobby tires on it. So the Carbon, as you can see, has a carbon look on it, carbon design or carbon graphics. on it. The Championship is a kind of their top of the line FTR with all the bells and whistles on it. My personal opinion on the FTR, this bike looks like a lot of fun. 120 horsepower, 87 foot-pounds of torque. I think it would be a lot of fun to get on this bike and just see what it can do. They look really powerful. They look like a lot of fun. I'm not a big fan of the more aggressive riding position with the feet back a little bit, but honestly, for sporty rides of half an hour to an hour, I think this bike would be absolutely fantastic. So I'd love to get my hands on one, or maybe take one for a test drive. I might try and do that at some point in time in the future. All right, so that's it for the standard or naked bikes. The next up in the line is their low-end cruiser bike, which is the Indian Scout, which of course I've done a review on my 2018 Indian Scout. That video is here if you haven't seen that. The Indian Scout ranges in price from $10,750 to $13,250, about a $2,500 price range, OEM, without any add-ons or modifications from the factory. They all feature forward foot controls. ABS is optional on most of them. There are a couple that have ABS standard once you get to the higher end ones. None of them have cruise control that I'm aware of. And LED is optional on some and standard on some as far as LED lights. All right, so let's start off with the Scout 60. Scout 60 is their smaller engine. It's a 1000cc, 5-speed transmission, 78 horsepower, and 65 foot-pounds of torque. The Scout 60 comes in, well, the Scout 60 is one model. The Scout Bobber 60 is the other model with the 60 engine, which basically stands for 60 cubic inch. Oh, and also there is the Scout Rogue 60 as well. The Rogue is a new model that was introduced last year, and that came out with Scout Rogue 60 as well. We'll talk more about the differences between the Scout, Scout Bobber, and Scout Rogue as well. The standard Scout comes with a 1100cc engine, 6-speed transmission, 100 horsepower, 72 foot-pounds of torque. And really there's only about 10 pounds difference between the 60 and the standard as far as the wet weight. 60 is about 550 pounds. Standard Scout is, full Scout is about 560 pounds. All right, so the other variations in the Scout is you have the Scout Bobber. So the Scout Bobber is basically, if you know what a bobber is, it has the shortened, clipped fenders. Scout Bobber typically, in a lot of cases, only has a single seat on it, does not have a two-up seat. And in terms of the Indian Scout, the full Scout Bobber has bar end mirrors. The Scout Bobber 60 has the regular handlebar mirrors. The Scout Bobber 60 is the lowest price point in the Scouts, which is the one that starts at $10,750. Last year, I know that was $10,000, so they have raised that price a little bit. The Scout Rogue is a bobber style Scout, but they changed the front wheel, made it a bigger rim, a 19-inch wheel on it with slightly thinner tires. You notice on the other Scouts it has a really fat tire on it. They put 10-inch mini apes as standard, which is an option on the other Scouts, but comes standard on the Scout Rogue. And of course has the fully blacked out look on both the Scout Rogue and the Scout Rogue 60. The other, so that takes care of the Scout, Scout 60, Scout Bobber 60, and the Scout Rogue and Scout Rogue 60. The other Scout is called the Scout Bobber 20. It's a bit of a unique one all on its own. It has the full Scout engine, the 1100cc, 100 horsepower engine. But this one, they put spoked wheels on it to give it kind of that a little bit more classic look. They did, it is a bobber for sure. You can see that with the fenders and the bar end mirrors, and they put the 10-inch mini apes on it as well. So that is that for the Scout line. Now the higher level of the cruiser line is the Indian Chief. And there are 6 models for the Indian Chief, ranging from 15,000 to 21,500. They all have a 4-gallon tank. They all have a 26-inch seat height and 6-speed transmissions. They range from 670 to 720 pounds wet, depending on which one you get. There are 2 different engine sizes in the Indian Chief models as well. This is where you get into the Thunderstroke engine. The Thunderstroke engine comes in 2 sizes. The Thunderstroke 111, which is a 111 cubic inch engine, 1811 cc, 108 foot-pounds of torque, and they do not give a horsepower rating on this engine, but I believe, based on a little bit of research I did, that it's somewhere in the realm of 75 horsepower. It's actually less horsepower than the Scout's engine, but it has quite a bit more torque. The other engine for the Indian Chief is the Thunderstroke 116, which is a 116 cubic inch or 1890 cc engine. Has 120 foot-pounds of torque and about 80 horsepower from what I've seen online. All right, so the 6 different models. You have the Chief Bobber, the Chief Dark Horse, the Chief Bobber Dark Horse, the Super Chief, and the Super Chief Limited. All right, so the Chief Bobber, and Super Chief all have the smaller Thunderstroke 111 engine. The others, the Chief Dark Horse, the Chief Bobber Dark Horse, and the Super Chief Limited have the Thunderstroke 116. As far as controls go, the Chief and the Chief Dark Horse are mid-controls. The other 4, the Chief Bobber Dark Horse, Super Chief, and Super Chief Limited, all have forward controls. And the Super Chief and Super Chief Limited comes with floorboards standard. Again, ABS is optional on the lower end ones. LED and cruise control are standard on all. The Super actually tends to go into kind of bridges between the cruiser line and the bagger line because it has saddlebags included and a windshield. So if you're looking at Indian's website, you'll see the Super Chief listed on both the cruiser line and in the bagger line. Okay, so that's it for the Scouts, that's it for the cruisers. 13 different models of cruisers, 5 models of your naked or more sporty bikes. Now we start on the baggers. There are 13 different models in the bagger lineup, at least how they categorize them. First one is the Indian Springfield. 2 different models here, ranging from 22,500 to 23,500. 5.5 gallon tanks on each, ABS, cruise, LED, 6-speed, all standard. Forward controls with floorboards as well. Basically the difference is you have the regular Springfield, which has the Thunderstroke 111 engine. It's about 850 pounds, 26-inch seat. It has the chromed out vintage look. The other one is the Springfield Dark Horse, which has the Thunderstroke 116. It's a little bit lighter, even though it has the bigger engine, 790 pounds. It goes back down to your 25.6-inch seat height, and it's all blacked out as far as the engine, exhaust, all that stuff. All right, so that's your Indian Springfield. Next is the Indian Chieftain, ranging from 22,500 to 33,000. This is the first bike, or the lower end of the bikes, that have fairings, full fairings on them. The fairings are all fork mounted on the Indian Chieftain. Again, 5.5 gallon tank. All of them have a 25.6 inch seat height, which is the same as the Scout and the Springfield. Well, yeah, the regular Springfield. The Chieftain models are all around 825 pounds. They all have, of course, ABS cruise, LED lights, forward controls with floorboards. Alright, so 4 different models of Chieftains. The regular Chieftain is a Thunderstroke 111. And then the other 3 Chieftains are all Thunderstroke 116s. So the bigger engine, the 1811cc on the Thunderstroke 111, the 1890 on the Thunderstroke 116, the higher levels of torque on the 116, and 75 or 80 horsepower, depending on which one you get. The only real difference between the Limited and the Elite, so the Dark Horse is going to be your blacked out look. The Limited is your Chieftain with the bigger engine, and then your Chieftain Elite basically takes the Limited and puts some upgrades in the infotainment system. Weighs a couple pounds more. I think it has much better speakers. It goes from like a 100-watt speaker system to 400 watts, something like that. So that is the one, of course, that is $33,000 on there. I think that's a $5,000 jump from the Limited. If I remember correctly, the Limited is $28,000. Dark Horse is somewhere in the realm of 26 or something, and then the regular Chieftain's one is 22.5. All right, so that's the Indian Chieftain. Next in the bagger is the Indian Roadmaster. So these range from $30,500 to $31,000. There's 3 different models. They are only $500 difference from low end to the top end of the Indian Roadmaster. The Indian Roadmaster is basically the same thing as the Indian Chieftain, except they put on a rear tour pack and a slightly bigger tank, a 6-gallon tank on all of them instead of the 5.5-gallon tank. They are 890 to 910 pounds wet, depending on which one you get. The Roadmaster models are the standard Roadmaster, the Dark Horse, and the Limited. So there is no Roadmaster Elite to match the Chieftain Elite. The Roadmaster has the Thunderstroke 116 engine on all the bikes. And the last of the baggers is the Indian Challenger. The Indian Challenger has 4 different models. This is the option where you can get full frame mounted fairings instead of fork mounted fairings on the Indian Challenger, and you can see that with the bigger fairing system here. They range from $24,500 to $36,000. They all have a 6-gallon tank, and the Challenger is basically when we start with the Power Plus engine. Power Plus engine is their newest engine, and this sucker puts out 128 foot-pounds of torque, which isn't a huge amount more than the Thunderstroke 116, which puts out 126 foot-pounds of torque, I think. Somewhere in the 120 to 125, 26 foot-pounds of torque. The Power Plus puts out 128 foot-pounds of torque. But the big difference in the Power Plus is you go from about 80 horsepower to 120 horsepower. So you're adding another 50% horsepower on top of that, along with all that torque. So now you've got an engine with 120 horsepower and 122 horsepower actually, and 128 foot-pounds of torque. Right, it's actually a little bit smaller of an engine. It's a 1768 cc instead of the 1890 of the Thunderstroke 116. All right, so on the Challenger, all the Challengers have a 26.5 inch seat height. They are weigh 830 to 840 pounds, wet and ready to ride. And basically, your 4 models are same as the Chieftain in that they are the Indian Challenger, the Challenger Dark Horse, the Challenger Limited, and the Challenger Elite. So again, the standard Challenger, the upgrades that come with the Challenger Dark Horse and the Challenger Limited, one's blacked out, one's chromed out, and then of course the higher level infotainment system of the Indian Challenger Elite, going up to $36,000 on that one. And then lastly, our touring models, we have the, actually they listed the Roadmaster as being a touring model. Put that in the bagger because it's just the upgrade to the Chieftain, which basically adds the tour pack on the back. And the touring model for the Challenger that has the tour pack on the back is the Indian Pursuit. These start at $30,000 and go up to $34,000. So actually the Indian Pursuit, the highest level model of Indian Pursuit, is actually lower than your Indian Challenger Elite. But unlike the Indian Challenger, the Pursuit has 4 different models, but it's basically 2 models that have the regular and then the upgraded. So you have the Indian Pursuit Dark Horse, which is blacked out, and then the Pursuit Dark Horse with premium package, which would be kind of like comparing that to the Elite of the Challenger or the Chieftain. And then the Indian Pursuit Limited, which is chromed out, and the Indian Pursuit Limited with premium package, which is chromed out with the upgraded infotainment system. So there you have it, folks. All of these, somewhere in the realm of 105 different bikes once you add all of the color options in there. And now, as an add-on, we're going to talk about their electric bikes. Yes, Indian has electric bikes, 3 different models, 2 of them for kids. The first one is the EFTR Mini, is a $530 bike with 18.4 inch seat height, goes a max speed of a whopping 14 miles an hour, and has a 140 pound max weight. Alright, the EFTR, the upgrade for that is the EFTR Junior, costs $850, 23 inch seat height, 15 mile per hour max, and 175 pound max weight. And then lastly, for those of us who want to go something a little faster than 15 miles an hour, the EFTR Hooligan, about $4,000, 31 inch seat height, pedal assisted max speed of 28 miles an hour with a 75 mile range. Exciting. Not sure I would ever pay $4,000 for a pedal assisted max speed of 28 miles an hour. But anyway, I'm sure somebody is. So there you have it, folks. There are all the Indian models lineups for 2023, ranging from $530 to $36,000. Take your pick. As for me, personally, I love my Scout. I would love to try the FTR. I would love to try the like the Super Chief and the Springfield, something like that. Those are kind of the ones that those 3 are kind of the ones that are on my list of ones that I'd like to take a test ride on or try out at some point in time in the future. Let me know what you'd like to try. Let me know if there's any of these you'd be interested in checking out or doing a test ride on, leave a comment below. As always, I appreciate you guys watching this. Take care. Have a good day.